on fire, and welcome back to ARK Survival Ascended. Today we're going to be chatting about some of the Nitrado server settings, because I don't know if you guys have realized, if you are brand new to setting up a server or anything like that, or you're kind of familiar, you're going to notice when it comes to Nitrado servers that they do not give you all of the things that you need for your basic settings. And I have not been the only person with this problem. I've heard many people having this problem, that not all the settings are here when it comes to this. It's actually a really short setting list compared to what it should be. There is a way you can fix it though, and I'm going to help you out with some basic settings to put into your server that you need, that are actually basic settings, which aren't here right at the moment. So what you want to do is you want to go to your config files. Once you're there, you've got a couple of options. You've got this drop-down menu for game user settings and game INI. Now, a lot of the time with the servers on Nitrado, the game INI box is completely empty. There's nothing in there at the moment. Now, they could update this at some point and put some more settings in, but for now, it has been blank for everybody I know so far. So that's not a usual thing that happens when it comes to servers, especially when it comes to ARK Survival Evolved, because it uses the exact same settings that you would use for Ascended when it comes to server INI. I'll quickly explain the differences between them as well, just so you can know. Game INI will always start with this to make it go correct. You need this first line here, the script shooter game mode. You need this as a header. And then the difference between the two is the game INI is basically one ginormous paragraph. And if we're to switch the game user settings, the game user settings has this header, server settings for one, and you will find the difference of this one is nice and neat. So it has categories, so you have different categories here and there with different headers, and that is where you'll put things like that. So that one has spaces. INI does not have any spaces. It's one big paragraph. Now, what's one thing these servers are missing? They are actually missing at the moment the harvest and the taming rates and all of your baby rates. They are missing those kind of things. Now, for me, I would consider this basic settings, but they are currently not in your general or basic settings. So that's why I'm talking about them today. So we're first going to look at the game user settings. So you're going to want to start out with a couple of these. So you're going to first want to set your harvest multiplier. Now, what you'll pretty much do, you can either type this out or you can copy and paste it in there. And what you're going to do is set it. So usually this rate is on default, which is 1.0. But if you increase it, you get more. So, of course, if you were to set it to 2, you get double the amount, triple the amount, quadruple the amount. And the same with taming. You can increase it however you like. It does go up quite a bit, though. 10 is quite a lot. So you can double it, triple it, etc. Do whatever you like on those. Just make sure if you want to make them better, they need to be a higher value than 1. So let's say I wanted 5 times taming. That's what I would do. I just put 5.0, and that would make my taming speed 5 times. Now, there are some other settings in here you might want to make use of when it comes to your game user settings. You could use this setting, use optimized harvest health, and true means it's enabled. If I wanted to set it to false, I would put false afterwards. But mine is on true because I like to optimize my server a bit more with that, and we have special settings around harvesting. There's also another one in here, PreventOfflinePvP, false. So that is the offline raid protection. If you've got a PvP server, may want to consider it. And there's also the PreventTribeAlliances. Sadly, this I was hoping wasn't going to be a thing coming over, but it's exactly the same. You can only have one or the other of these settings. So if you want alliances, you can't have offline raid protection. If you want offline raid protection, you cannot have alliances. So you need to choose between the two if you want one of those or not. Currently, at the moment, I have chose to have alliances on my server. That is why they are both false, because I don't want to prevent server alliances. Next one is allow anybody to BabyImprintCuddle equals true. So basically, if you have like a bunch of people in a tribe, do you want it just to be one tribe mate that can do it, who hatches out the baby, or do you want everyone in that tribe to be able to imprint that baby? The next one is in the general settings, but I did want to go over it. It is the OverrideOfficialDifficulty settings, so that is what you want to see when it comes to Dino levels on your server. Now, default is 1, and that's going to give you really crap levels, if I'm honest with you guys. I'm going to show you this graph so you can see what you need on this difficulty value for whatever you want. So if it was 1, my max level creature would be 30. We don't want that. The default on official servers is actually 150. So you will want to set it to 5 if you want 150. But I do know some people do like it a bit more difficult, so you could also try setting it to 10 for the max level of 300 on your dinosaurs. Another one you could consider is the ItemStackSizeMultiplier. So it has been a thing so far that some of the old codes when it comes to stacking doesn't work via the Game Ini. Well, you could always try this one, the ItemStackSizeMultiplier, to do a lot of things in general. It won't do things like raw prime and stuff like that, but it could do things for like your wood and stuff like that and stack it. So a good example here is usually wood stacks to 100 in official. I set it from 1.0 to 5.0, and now it stacks to 500. So that gives you a really good example. It's mainly just basic resources like wood and stone. You can use this to help out with that. Next one that I didn't find in my INI was EnableExtraStructurePreventionVolumes True. Basically, stops people building on metal spots and rich places like that. Next one is ClampItemSpoilingTimes. This is set to false for me because this will clamp it to the maximum spoiling times it could be at, but it can cause issues with mods, so I don't tend to do it. But what I do is I do tend to clamp resource harvest damage. Now having this enabled, like not having it clamped if it was set to false, can cause a bit of extra server lag. So if you're looking to increase your performance, you may want to look into clamping. Now what this does do is it means if you were to up your damage rate on your dinosaur, your harvest gatherer, it will not make it gather more than if you were to not touch the damage value. So I mean, no matter what you use, we'll get the same amount of metal out. Now I really recommend, if you're trying to save some FPS or whatever else, server performance, which you probably do want to do when it comes to Acer because it uses a lot of server resources, you may want to consider setting this to true. Mind you, if it's just you on the server or maybe a couple of friends, then you probably don't need to bother with this. But for me, I am used to running servers with a lot of people. It definitely counts and it definitely helps. I know it at least did it on Ace, and this is no different, so I'm putting it on there too. Now, what you may want to consider when you do that, if you were to set that to true, is the harvest health and stuff like that. Anything with a harvesting, you may want to look into if you want to save some extra server resources. So what this will do will increase the health of items, so you can smack it a bit more for some resources. So it could make up for the clamp of resource harvest damage if you wanted to by increasing the health. Entirely up to you on that one. You can experiment around with it, but again, default is 1. Now the next one is going to be really, really important here, and it's something I have just noticed. So Nitrado does not actually currently set you up with a cluster ID or any of that. They currently don't provide any of these options when it comes to general basic settings. When I'm making this recording of this video, it's been a few days since Acer has been out. But basically, it's mainly because there's no other maps to transfer to really at the moment, so they don't have any of that activated as far as I know. But there's no way to set up like a proper cluster ID from what I could see on their general page as of current, so you would need to put it in yourself. Now, unfortunately, what this does, if you don't put any of those values in of prevention or allowing, it pretty much means by default on any Nitrado server you set up that people can download stuff from single player and put it into your multiplayer server world, which is really bad. Because you don't want that, because someone might spawn a level 9000 Reaper King and bring it over to your server and get it over there just fine. So until you can actually set up a cluster ID for your server at least, or 2 servers you have, I would highly recommend turning off the download and upload, because otherwise people can just download things from single player, as there is no current option to actually turn that off. So what you want to do is set all of these to true to prevent them all for now, which is a bit of a bummer because it means you can't use drops to transfer things, but it will at least keep things nice and safe. And this one at the bottom, not too relevant right now. That would be if you had things like from Aberration. Now we're going to move over to the Game Ini, so that's the big paragraph one we were talking about. And the most important thing in here really is all your breeding settings. Now at the moment a lot of this is default, some of it's a bit mixed up just from me editing around with it. What I would recommend to you when it comes to all of these is to Google these and see what other people have as settings, because depending on each multiplier can vastly depend on if you can fully imprint something or not. So you may want to be careful with it. If you want faster rates, you probably want to do some research on that first. If you want default, then keep it at 1, you know, or its usual settings. For this, I'll link in the description down below. This is for any of the INI we talked about today if you want to learn about it a bit more. Go onto this page and have a look at some of the baby multipliers and have a read on what they do, depending if you pull them up or down. People also have specific videos on all of this. It gets very complicated with the baby rates, so just bear that in mind. But if you do want faster than default, you will need to have these in here and change them about as you do. And that's really only the baby stuff, to be honest. When it comes to this stuff down below, it's a little bit different. So your mating intervals multiplier, that's how much they can mate per like hour and stuff like that. So if you want them to have intercourse more often, then you want to set it lower. If you don't want them having that, which not a lot of people do, you would set it higher. You can also alter the mating speed multiplier, which just increases how fast they do the deed. And then we're looking at egg hatch speed multiplier, set at default at 1.0 right now, but this is just pretty much how fast an egg would incubate and hatch out. And this is the one you want to consider increasing if you wanted them to incubate faster. So you wouldn't go down, you would go up in value. There we have crop decay, speed multiplier, and growth. So if you want things to grow faster, it's pretty self-explanatory. Same with the decay. Allow unlimited respecs. Something you might want to look into is basically, so with the mind potions, you can only do that once every so often. If you set it to true, that just means you can do it all the time and set whatever your stats you want to be at, whenever you want it to be at. This one might help with lag. It is the poop interval multiplier. So this is usually at 1. I put it to 1.5 so they will do it less, and this basically will save some server resources, funny enough as well. And then the last couple of things we have in here, now that I got rid of some of the cluster we didn't really need in there, player harvesting damage multiplier and the dino harvesting multiplier. Now this correlates a lot with the harvesting settings, so if you want things to be depleted faster in a quicker number of swings, you basically would want to increase this. So it means they're not sat there smacking it as long. So this could be really useful if it comes to like sheep and mutton. They're not just sat there for ages like chainsawing it. If you make it higher, then they will deplete the resource faster. This is usually one you want to balance with the health one we talked about, the harvesting health and stuff like that. You may want to play around with that. And it's the same with the dinos harvest one. It just means dinos instead of players. And then the last one, disable structure placement collision. That means like if your foundation goes in the floor a bit, it won't be as moany as where you want to place it if you alter it up a bit. So that one is that. What I will quickly add on here as well, once you've made changes in these boxes, make sure to click the Save Changes button. That will save your progress you have made in there. It doesn't seem to come up with a confirmation when you do that these days, but if you click it, make sure it goes in, maybe click it a couple times, then it will save any edits you have made in this big old box right here. Also, do know when you're editing anything INI-wise, you want the server to be down before you make any changes. And you want to make sure the server is fully offline, and then do your changes, save them, and turn it back online. When you don't do this and you make changes and save it when the server is online, you are more likely to come across problems like being stuck in like boot loops and stuff like that, or just having things playing out not saving or going in properly. So you don't want that. Make sure it comes all down first. Put your applications in and then save it. It's the same with like mods and stuff like that, or any general settings. Make sure you do it properly. That way you're not struggling and having issues. Either way, I'm going to leave a little list of these in the description down below. If you want to copy and paste and play around with them, you absolutely can. Just be careful what you set and make sure you get the right values. But I thought I'd put a few basic ones in there to help you guys out and stuff like that. Because I noticed Nitrado's kind of setup is really like not good right now. And for people that don't really know much about INI, I was like, oh dear, this is going to be really difficult for them if they want to up a few things and they don't really know much about it because it's really not set up for it right now. So that's kind of what this video is aimed for, to help people that are less experienced with servers, and so that they can get their footing in the door and set a few settings to the correct ones and, you know, play around with it. maybe get their foot in the door on INI, and I hope Nitrado will fix this up soon and make general settings a bit better than it is, because at the moment it is very hard for beginner people to kind of use, I will definitely say, as they are the only people that provide servers right now. I generally find that not okay, so hopefully this helps either way. Either way, have a look through server configuration on that website if you want to learn a bit more about different settings and stuff like that. They all have like tooltips and tell you what they do and stuff like that. But anyway, thank you for watching. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!